We are all so busy these days, and we're always looking for helpful tips and advice on how to find a better work-life balance. We all have to earn a living and pay the bills, but are you doing enough to look after yourself and your health at the same time? Now, many of us prioritise careers and work, and we're slaving over our computers and mobiles all the time. But does this make you cut corners on your diet, exercise or sleep? I'm Dr. Ben Sinclair, and welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. Our guests share their life experiences and we discuss their challenges in their health and their wealth. I hope their experiences will help you with your life and health. Welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben, and I'm here with Zoe Bennett, the Motivational Queen, who's my guest today. Zoe, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And so you have built an extraordinary life out of helping other people, and you're involved in so many different projects. Where did it all begin?
I would say it all began when I was just around 2 years of age, and my grandmother said to me that she's knitting me a cardigan.
Yeah.
And I said to her, "No, I do not want that cardigan. If you give it to me, I'm going to throw it in the bin." And true to my word, I'm one of these people that has continuously through my life followed through with everything that I said I'm going to do. And as soon as she knitted me that jumper, it went in the bin.
Wow.
So it sounds like defiance, but it isn't. It's about, steadfastness in what your beliefs are and making sure that when you say something, you do it. And everything I've done, I don't just say I can do it or talk about it or give other people advice about it. I actively follow through and I show people what to do and I lead by example. So that's where it all started.
So you're quite a determined lady, right from the early years. Now, Zoe, when we first met, you were the chief judge of the Phoenix Business Awards in Birmingham last year, and I was lucky to receive the prize for Best Business in Birmingham from you. At the time, you were talking to me about some principles for people in business and how they might manage their health and wealth. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Absolutely, but first of all, congratulations on your win.
Oh, thank you so much.
Very well deserved.
Well, the team did a great effort, and it's all about everyone's contribution.
So humble.
Yeah.
You're so humble, aren't you?
Well, it's not just me. I have a great team, so they deserve that award just as much as we did.
That's probably why we're getting on right now, because it's a we thing, not just a me thing, isn't it? But with regards to business owners and the wealth and and their health, it is really important that my message to you at the time was that we are on the treadmill, literally, excuse the pun, of life, doing all the work continuously, just playing catch up all the time and trying to get the outcomes that we desire, that we don't really take the time out as much as we say we should do. We know we should do, because we're just too busy trying to just finite things. But actually, there's no such thing as perfection. And in order for us to get to perfection, we can't be there if our health is not there. So we're playing literally a catch-up game, a cat and mouse game, and a dangerous game at the same time, because how are we going to succeed and be successful if our health is not coming along with us? I've seen so many people who have been cut short and having real major ailments that are debilitating, and they can't even half finish what they wanted to do. So really, was it worth it? So I think your type of message and what you do and is really poignant for people like us, the business people of the world. Actually, you need to remind us that, something, as much as work is important, and it's not just a case of, I'm just saying it really detrimentally is important to look after your health. And that message needs to be displayed a lot more. And hard-hitting pictures, hard-hitting facts, hard-hitting case studies need to be shown out there for people to realise actually it can happen in any given moment.
Wow, that's a real salient point that you make there. And we love to say, enjoy the ride and arrive alive, so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labour. We're well aligned here, because we're all about trying to enjoy that business journey and keep your health as well.
I love that. Arrive alive. I'm going to be using that on my social media post today.
I'm going to have to trademark that one.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, but the thing is with that, as much as it's tongue-in-cheek, it's a reality.
It is a reality.
Yeah, and I love that. Thank you.
Now, Tell us more about the Multicultural Business and Community Champion Awards, because you founded this. When did all that happen?
So I founded that after tragedy struck within my home life, where my father was brutally tortured to death, and I needed to say thank you to those people who'd got me through that. And one of those two key people actually was Gavin Williamson.
Right.
At the time, he was David Cameron's parliamentary secretary. He then went on to be the chief whip of the Houses of Parliament, and then he went on to then be Theresa May's parliamentary secretary. Then he went on to be the Minister of Security, and then went on to be the Minister of Education. But the time he helped me was David Cameron's parliamentary secretary. And then also the officer from Staffordshire Police, who was my FLO, family liaison officer, who I found out afterwards he did all the work he did with me to try and find trace the death threats, because I was having death threats.
Gosh.
And or to keep me safe and to liaise with the authorities. And I wanted to say thank you to them. So I thought, well, I can't just give them a box of chocolates or some flowers. I'll create an award ceremony, because there wasn't any out there that had the title that I wanted to give them, the honorary title. So I created it, and I thought, well, if I'm giving myself the opportunity to say thank you to my unsung heroes, then I'm going to allow other people to recognise and value their unsung heroes in both the business and the community worlds that go far. Yeah.
Wow, gosh, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened. It's such a sad part of your history, but amazing how you're actually using that, turning it around to honour the people who helped you in your hour of need. Can you tell me a bit about how that might have changed you as a person? Because obviously going through these things is quite a huge part of your life. How's that changed you in the process, do you think?
Well, what I can say is that it could have gone very many different ways. When you've gone through such trauma and such tragedy, and obviously knowing that your life was targeted that way, and at one point I was having to go over there and I had to say goodbye to my children, my partner and everybody, create my will, knowing I was going towards my death. And that's when then the MP stepped in to save me, and obviously I didn't have to go, he took over.
Right.
So that could have changed me, where I could have internalised, I could have been in real depression and stayed within that depression, and why me instead of why not me, and I had to just keep turning it around to a positive mindset. And what happened is I realised it's bigger than me, because I was all of a sudden in the Daily Mail, the Mirror, magazines, Take a Break, everything. People were talking about me online, and then within the conversations I was hearing online, there was people saying similar things that happened to them, and the statistics were that out of 100% of murders, this was written in the Lancashire Evening Post, 100% of murders, only 5% go to trial and conviction in Jamaica. And I realised that I couldn't allow myself and anyone else anymore to be a statistic, and it needed somebody to step up and do something. So I had, in my mind, no choice but to be that person, because I was meant to be murdered with my dad that morning. It was planned. So my life no longer is mine. My life is now to serve and be that shining light and stepping into my purpose to help other people. So that's what I did.
What a meaning to find out of such a challenging situation. And having worked in prison myself, I understand a little bit about what it's like to have death threats. And it's very scary on a day-to-day basis to feel under threat, to be looking over your shoulder. But amazing that you've actually developed a strong yet positive mindset with this, and gone on to help other people. And what I love about what you've done is the recognition of those people who are quietly working behind the scenes. So how did you end up actually forming the awards, and who did you select? How did you choose who was going to be awarded these? It was my network. This is one thing people have to understand. You need to utilise the people and engage the people that are in your sphere, and then not just leave it as that. Then get those in your network to utilise their sphere, and that's how I did it. I was heavily networking at the time, so I actually utilised my connections within the business world to pretty much put this event on for next to nothing by borrowing and stealing, but utilising those people that had key skills. So every key skill, I went to them and says, well, can you do this element for me? And I managed to put on an event for 320 people at the Copthorne Tara
on my own. My friend Paul Lander was by my side as well. And at the Confrontara, we got entertainment. We had singers, we had comedians, we had illusionists, we had film crew, we had television stations covering it, black tie, 3-course meal. Honestly, we had the screens, amazing screens, everything. There was nothing held back. It was a really elegant evening, and I managed to do that with the support of Paycare, and they actually provided £3,500, and I put all that on. £3,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It just goes to show the goodwill that's grown behind this movement that you've created, because really you're actually creating a movement here, aren't you? And it's so lovely to see people come together around a cause and go forwards in that way.
Yeah.
I hear that you're actually singled out by Rishi Sunak for this birthday honours list, and you got the British Empire Award. Did you get to meet the King himself?
Well, I have met the King, and I met him at Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
And it was really interesting, to be fair. Actually, it floored me a little bit, because all I ever felt all my life is that he's very tall, because you see him next to William,
right,
who looks super tall.
Yeah.
And he's tiny.
Is he?
He's tiny.
I didn't know that.
Seriously.
He wasn't. Was he having to stand on a little sort of pedestal or something?
No, he's not much taller than me.
Wow.
And I'm
I did not know
5'5".
that.
So yeah.
That's the best kept secret.
So maybe he's hunched over now, because when you get older you start hunching. I don't know, but he wasn't tall as I imagined him.
And what did you talk about?
Just talked about what I was doing in the community, the individuals that I'm helping and how I'm helping them. And he was telling me how amazing that was, and he was so proud that I'm doing that for the people of the United Kingdom. And I said, well, that's what I do. You know, being me again. My responses are just my responses. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's nothing. I went, yeah, it's nothing. It's just what we do. You know. So, and he was just smiling the whole time through. And then he started with his hands on his chin. I really, really engaging. He's someone who cares about what someone's saying. And I was kind of fortunate, because he spent a lot more time with me than anybody else, to be perfectly honest, which was nice.
So just a bit more about how you see wealth. I know you've got a reputation for helping people, and I heard a story about you helping a homeless person. Can you tell me a bit more about what happened?
Yeah, I actually help a lot of homeless people, but one in particular, I actually helped him to, first of all, see and recognise who he was and be proud of who he was, and to put those negative thoughts that he's been displaying about himself, and I call them false realities, to the side, and recognising what those false realities are and what the reality is. And I always say feel is not always real. Just because you feel something is a particular way doesn't mean it is real. Just because you feel you can't do it doesn't mean you cannot do it, you know. So we changed all that mindset, and I managed to move into work, which changed his living circumstances. We had to obviously get him a different home address, but we use a business address, being able to do that, and also use them as a character reference to allow them to substantiate that. And it's changed his life, and there's other people besides him, by moving them towards work. And it's really important for me, because we all know in life, everybody, yourself, including myself, we're all 3 paychecks away from being homeless. But the difference is creating contingencies and creating that same defiance I told you about my grandmother, that you know, that stubbornness to actually make sure you're putting things in place and don't settle for less than. And for me, it's about, yes, getting them into work, but if they cannot sustain it, cannot have retention, it's pointless, you know, because if they then go back 10 steps, imagine with the negative self-belief already before was the way it was. Imagine what it's going to be like if then the second time round after really giving it their all. So I put coping mechanisms in place and teach them how to move beyond. So I'll give you an example of a story. So I used to just work normally for a travel agency in Preston. And at the same time, I was putting myself through university to do my master's in tourism management. And I also had a child. I was a single parent, and I was in a council property. I was offered to either leave the council property and they give me 5,000, or I can buy that council property. So I took the 5,000 and I decided what I'm going to do, because I don't want to be a slave to working my entire life to pay off a building of bricks and mortar. So I paid up front all my bills for 2 years, so ahead of time, and I saved and saved. And then what I did was that I gave myself £20 a week spending money. And I did this over a course of just shy of 2.5 years, just before. And I was changing in the car, in the actual car park, to go to university, going back to work, doing a 12-hour shift. So, and I was literally only living, my petrol, my childcare, everything, £20, everything had to be in there.
Wow.
So I managed in less than 2.5 years to pay off my house in full, because what I did, I switched my mortgage to an offset account. So if anyone doesn't know about offsets, research them. And I managed to overpay my mortgage. So I had my property, my first ever property in Preston, in my early 20s. I then went on to buy a property additionally in Cheshire all by myself. And I went on to buy more properties. I did all of that. So when tragedy hit, when my father was brutally murdered, I actually had to find around £100,000 out of my own money to be able to hire private investigators, repatriate his body, do lots of things, have security guards and all the rest of it. And so, well, luckily, by having that decision all those years ago of putting myself forward in life, it gave me choices, gave me my contingency. Everything I've self-funded, so I've bootstrapped everything. My businesses that I do now, everything I've bootstrapped myself, you know. And it's really important to make sure that you don't just move forward into something, but you move forward with security. And I gave myself that security by making sure I sacrifice at the right time. So when everyone else is partying, I'm going to the clubs and not spending a penny on drink, just water, just one bottle of water, £2. Most times people would buy me that. Yeah. My friends would own the club. I would get them there free. So you can be resourceful.
Absolutely.
And it's about being resourceful to better your life.
That's fantastic. Now, tell me about your own health. I know you're keen on healthy lifestyle. When I last saw you, you were judging the Phoenix Business Awards, and I remember you said to me that business owners, should look after themselves. So tell me about your own lifestyle, and
So you got me off the back where I'd just come out of hospital.
Oh gosh, right.
Literally, so my kidneys were packing up and failing yet again.
Wow.
So I have kidney problems.
Okay.
So I have to be really very mindful of what I do. But yeah, every so often they take me down. So that's when, obviously, when you're in that state, you're in the hospital bed for 10 days.
Yeah.
You're like, do you know what? Epiphany. We really need to be looking after ourselves. Sometimes it's easier said than done, and I just think it's very important that you know exactly what makes your body tick and what doesn't make your body tick, and move with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't limit yourself of enjoyment.
So what kind of things do you feel make you tick in the health sphere?
So it's just about, for me, in order for my body to be right, my mind has to be right. So I talk to myself a lot. I always try and not sweat the small stuff. So many people, their health can deteriorate because they're so caught up in everything, as opposed to just letting certain things go and taking a minute to analyse and sit back and self-reflect. And is it really that deep? Is it really that important, that minute, that moment, to respond there and then? Or is it better to take a moment and respond in the morning? If you respond in the morning, half the time you don't even remember what it was, that angst anyway. So I'm a chilled person, because it's like, yep, next.
Just let it go. Yeah, I love it. And I mean, there's lots of evidence for that being a really positive way to deal with any little things. Write them down, put them on the pillow, look in the morning, and in the cold light of day, do they actually look as important as they were in the middle of the night? Usually not. And you can carry on with your day knowing that they were insignificant but bothersome. So mindset, obviously, as the motivational queen, that has to be a big part of your setup. And then what else? What other areas of health are you interested in? Obviously, you're protecting yourself from the kidney point of view. What other parts of your healthy lifestyle in your busy working schedule do you employ?
If I'm going to be totally honest, I could do a lot more, and I know I could do a lot more. And again, the lifestyle for me, I actually substitute it. So because it's so busy, I know I'm getting the steps in.
So you're busy on your feet all day?
Yeah, so I'm busy on my feet. So where I would be in a gym, which I'm clearly not in a gym. I'm actually doing the substitute of walking and still being active. So by being busy, as long as you're walking and doing things, and also keeping your, because I do a lot of trivia, by the way, as well.
Okay.
I train the brain continuously. It is so important.
How do you do the trivia and train yourself constantly? Is it podcasts? Is it
games?
Games.
Yeah, it's trivia games. So after I had the COVID injection,
the vaccination,
I had 20/20 vision in my eyes before. Had my eyes lasered, everything fine for years and years and years. All of a sudden, had that first injection, my eyesight started going all blurry, and then my memory started going. So
Interesting.
In the most simplest of things, I couldn't remember.
Wow.
And I would have to pause and think hard and really try and dig deep of even just a sentence that I wanted to say, just to finish off a sentence,
Wow.
So
and for someone who's used to speaking and be verbal, that must have been quite challenging, not being able to be verbal as much as you used to.
It was hard. And because of all the things I'm juggling, all like the awards and different things that I'm doing, and I've got jewellery line, I've got business books, I've got everything you can think of, organic gift sets, that I couldn't remember one thing to the other. So the way in which I actually got my mind back was just playing loads and loads of trivia games.
Interesting.
So that's what I did.
So brain training is the way forward.
Literally.
That's interesting. I had a similar thing when I had long COVID. I couldn't talk properly, and I'm sure that the COVID affects our ability to process things in that way. But it's good to hear you found a way through. I mean, it's very much like the cardigan. You've demonstrated determination from an early age, and you're finding your way to work with yourself. I really like that, because you're acknowledging that there's something to do, and then you're looking for a solution. And what I also like is that it's fun, because it's got to be fun, otherwise you don't do it, right?
Absolutely. I do not take myself seriously. I see so many people just thinking that business or anything or life is always just serious. It's not. We're on this planet for such a short space of time. Why do we not want to? Because obviously when you're happy, your endorphins obviously delight you from within and make you feel better.
Yeah.
So then why would I want to be miserable and feel like tight and a coiled spring? No, not me.
That's great. I think what you're demonstrating is a really great light hold on life, which I think enables you to pass through life, deciding what to pick up, what to put down, which is something really often that comes out of adversity. And people who've been through adversity often, I think, go one of two ways. You've become a positive shining light, and developed some higher skills, which a lot of people would love to learn who are in business, because they're sweating it, they're grinding it out. And this podcast is all about that balance with health and wealth. And some people are trying to grind out financial wealth at the expense of their health. So what does wealth mean to you, and how would you describe your wealth?
Isn't monetary, one thing. So, and it's okay for people who want to describe wealth as money. That's fine. That's you. Do you be unique. For me, wealth is just being happy. Wealth is making a legacy, for not just for my children, for other people out there, and paving the way, because we wouldn't be where we are if other people didn't pave the way for us. So that's, for me, I feel that's my destiny and that's my wealth. So like, for instance, I have this employability program running, and yesterday, because I know that they need hope, people who are unemployed and have been unemployed and they feel that they're useless and they're not going to get anywhere, they need hope. They need someone to back them, they need someone to believe in them, as well as they need to believe in themselves, but someone to teach them how to do that. So I actually had Jay Blades of the BBC Repair Shop. I asked him to record a video personalised to them and speaking to them and giving them hope, and he did, and I played that yesterday. That's and great. Honestly, that you could feel the energy, you could feel just that enlightenment in that room. It was just so beautiful, honestly, and that's what makes me wealthy.
And I get that just gives you that great sense that something is changing, that there's something happening. And they say without hope the people perish. So we need something to look forward to, but also to believe. Seeing other people who've gone before is a great way to see that it is possible for anyone to step up and do something. So I think what you're describing is almost like this sort of contentment from the sort of social wealth, or or generating social capital.
Absolutely. So for me, wealth is having good people around you, and actually allowing those good people to help other people. So my thing is networking, hence why I wrote the book Networking Personified.
Right.
And it's about gathering those people that might not necessarily will help me right now. So I've met the director of Microsoft. He says now he'll help with the employability. Do you see where I'm coming from? So that's not necessarily helping me, but it's helping other people. But we've got to learn that we have to gather wealth, and that's gathering the right people who can then move forward and support other people.
So it's sort of paying it forward in a social way. And I think what goes around comes around. I think if you do help people, you will end up actually, making friends, having connections, and eventually, we don't do it for the comeback, but you'll be paid back your reward, won't you? So, you've done so many different things. Tell me about your jewellery line. You just dropped that in there.
Yeah. So
how's that been going?
So this is the way in which I use this particular jewellery. So I created it as motivational wear. And it says Motivational Queen. It's got the trademark on there, but also says believe in yourself.
Right.
The bracelet says never give up. So what I do, I reach out to business owners. I get them to purchase the gift set. They don't take the gift set, but then I reach out to refugees, so women's refugees, and we gift them these jewellery because no one gives them anything. They're feeling, as if they're less than. So by having this, not only does it help them remind themselves and seeing the jewellery, their children are with them in these refuges. So when they're asking them, Mum, what does believe in yourself mean? What does never give up? It starts the conversation.
Creates that conversation opportunity, doesn't it? Lovely. And the lovely thing is they're sponsored by people who believe in these opportunities, and then there's a reminder there, a physical reminder. You talk a lot about sort of positive self-talk. Is there anything particular that's made you push into that as a thing?
Well, especially when you've gone through so much trauma in your life, you have to have coping mechanisms. And what happens is when you've gone through trauma, you have these thoughts, these things that come in and tell you certain things. Everyone has their own, limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. But you have to be able to stop that. So what I do, I use like keywords like get a grip, and I say that to myself to get myself back in the moment.
So bring yourself back to ground.
Exactly, because subliminally it's like it's eating away at you, but you need something to take you back out to get back in that moment, so then you can deal with those voices, those negative conversations that are internally happening. And that's one thing that I do. Or trigger points, I will pinch myself on my wrist just to get myself back in, or press the pressure point. So when I'm speaking on stage, whether I'm speaking to a small amount of people or to 1,000 people in India where I've spoken, and on stage, and I realise, because I've got asthma, got down to the bottom steps, realising I can't get back up those steps and talk at the same time.
so you got stuck at the bottom of the steps.
But I actually made it work because I did the power of pause.
Okay.
And I pointed at every single person, and I just started walking backwards without saying anything with my hands out. And I took my time, got up, then I turned back around, I'm like, but no one can hear me. And I'm still like this with my arms behind me. And when I calmed down, I turned around and I went, and it's all for you. And then look around.
Fantastic.
There's always coping mechanisms some way, somehow.
I love the way you've weaved it in about being about them. But giving yourself the time to compose yourself. I think often we're not present, are we? And often, you talk about people in business, kind of rushing and not enjoying it, not having fun. If you are present, I think you're far more likely to enjoy the ride, and that's going to take you forward and help you have a long life. Zoe, thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure talking to you today with your inspirational stories, and I'm sure the listeners will really appreciate what you've said today.
Thank you so much.
So that's it for today. I hope my guest and I have helped you meet some of your health versus wealth challenges. Now, to hear more from me, Dr. Ben, why not subscribe on your usual podcast platform? And if you like my advice or you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me on podcast@drfinlays.co.uk. Anyway, I hope to see you again, but for now, it's goodbye from me, Dr. Ben.